The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Here's what's cooking on today's Sports Stove Football Show. We conclude our NFL preview episodes with the AFC East. That's what's cooking on today's Sports Stove Football Show. Welcome in to an all-new edition of the Sports Stove Football Show on the Belly Up Sports Network, presented by Righteous Felon Jerky. Join the flavor revolution at righteousfelon.com and use the promo code STOVE15. You're going to get 15% off your purchase. Well, everyone, we're glad to have you back. I'm Vince Stover. I'm joined, as I am every week, by my dad, Dale Stover. Dad, how you doing?
Good, doing good. Boy, I tell you, football's inching ever so close to us here, so we're almost there.
We are almost there, and on this show, we have been diving through all of the divisions in the NFL, previewing them, and today we enter into our very last division, and that is the AFC East. So if you've missed any of our previous episodes, go back on YouTube, the Belly Up Sports YouTube channel, or the Sports Stove Football Show podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, and you can catch all the other episodes there as well. Today, we head into the AFC East, and we start things off with the Bills. With each team, we'll go through a breakout player, make or break players, depth chart battles, and then we'll talk ceilings and floors with the win totals as well for each team. So we'll start off with the Buffalo Bills. Not a whole lot of change in Buffalo this offseason. They still have the same quarterback. They still have the same coach. They were finally able to sign James Cook to a new contract extension, so that's good for them. But they really didn't add anything at the wide receiver level. They did add Josh Palmer, but outside of that, I guess Elijah Moore you could throw in there as well. That's pretty much it. Josh Palmer, probably the only new starter in Buffalo on the offensive side of the ball. On the defensive side, they did add Joey Bosa and Tre'Davious White. So those are two very good additions, plus the second-round pick TJ Sanders on the defensive line. But they kind of overall held steady. So we'll see how that will impact the Bills this season. But let's start off with a breakout player. And, Dad, who is the breakout player for the Buffalo Bills?
Well, I think it'll be Dalton Kincaid, the tight end. He came in highly regarded, and I think as they work him more into the system and having the quarterback he does, I think he might be one of the top tight ends this year. Could be.
That's a good point. I mean, first round draft pick in 2023. He's been good, but he hasn't been great just yet. And that's what you're talking about, of course, there. Fantasy owners would very much so like a breakout year for Dalton Kincaid. I'm going to go with another pass catcher and Keon Coleman, another high draft pick, second-round pick last season. When you look at this wide receiver crew, there's just nobody that stands out. There's no one that you go, yep, they are clear-cut number one wide receiver. But they drafted Coleman to be just that. So his rookie season wasn't great, wasn't horrible, but wasn't great. And I just have to believe that at some point, someone has to take off for the Buffalo offense. So I figured Keon Coleman was the breakout player for me this season. All right, let's head to make or break player for Buffalo. Who do you have for that?
I'm going to go with a wide receiver and Elijah Moore. He's bounced around a little bit, and I think he has great potential. But will he find a spot here in Buffalo? Will he be able to be the 2 or 3? If not, he may bounce around again.
I'm with you at wide receiver, Dad, but I'm going with the same guy I did as my breakout player, which I know is kind of weird. But Keon Coleman, I think he has to break out this year. And if he doesn't, what does that mean for his long-term career, or at least his career in Buffalo? They need him to be a number one player. If he's not, they will continue to look for somebody else in that spot. So sophomore season, not the end of the world, but I still think it's a make or break year for him as well. So I'm going to go Keon Coleman. At the end of the day, the wide receiver crew is make or break, I think, in Buffalo this year. They all need to step up there. You can look at Josh Palmer. You can look at Khalil Shakir, who's been pretty good, actually. Curtis Samuel is there as well. So there are plenty of options at that wide receiver spot to discuss. All right, let's go in the depth chart battles. And who do you have that you're watching in Buffalo with the depth chart battles?
Well, I think their offensive line is something to watch, and I think especially Spencer Brown, is he going to be able to establish himself as one of the main linemen, or will he get beat out from there? That's one guy they're looking to see how the preseason goes.
Okay, I went to the other side of the ball. I went defensive line, specifically there, the tackle spot. Ed Oliver is there. You know no one's moving him. But Daquan Jones, the rookie TJ Sanders, and another rookie, Deion Walker, 4th-round draft pick, are all going to fight for snaps on the defensive line. Who will start? Who will get a lot of snaps? That is the question. They also brought in a guy from Pittsburgh, but right now he's a little banged up, so I'm not sure how much that plays into it. But I think that defensive line, especially in the middle, is something to watch out for as far as the depth chart battles go in the next couple of weeks. All right, let's go into the win total and the ceiling and floor for Buffalo. The win total for Buffalo this year is 11.5. And, Dad, when I looked at the schedule for all of these teams, I thought I was going to be a little down on the East as a whole. The East kind of has a relatively easy draw this year, I thought, overall. So I'm curious to know your thoughts on the Bills, their floor and their ceiling.
I was probably the opposite when I looked at the schedules, not quite as high on some of them. And Buffalo, looking at their schedule, again, Buffalo's been kind of an interesting team the last few years. Very good team, probably the best quarterback in the league. But, having established ourselves as dominance, the Chiefs are the ones that have done that. So as I looked at the schedule, if you go 11.5, I'll go just under because I had 11 wins. Is about what I came out with there. I had the ceiling being at 12 and the floor being at 9.
Okay, wow. So I've got the floor at 11, and I've got their ceiling at 15. Now, again, I look at it, where I'm going, they don't have everything that you want in a team. They like better receivers. Offensive line is okay. The tight ends are good. The running back's good. The defense should be good, so they should be good too. So I look at it, and I just saw I can't see them finishing under 11 wins. So 11.5 is the total. I'd go over that, but ultimately, I think their floor is 11, and so I think they are in for another big season, especially a regular season as well. If you look at the past 3 years, Dan, they won 13 games last year, 13 games in 2023, and 13 games in 2022. So history will tell you they're going to get over 11 games this year as well. And by the way, watch out for Buffalo again this year. They're just going to still be right there towards the top. All right, let's go back. We'll come back to them in a moment. Let's go now to the next team. That is the Miami Dolphins. And, Dad, I'm intrigued to hear your thoughts on these players. So let's start off with a breakout player in Miami this season.
Well, I think it could be their rookie draft choice, left tackle Will Campbell.
That's the Patriots.
Huh?
That's the Patriots.
Well, I guess I was looking at the wrong one. We'll go with the other guy I had, Malik Washington, wide receiver. He's a guy they're looking for a lot from there. So
there you go. I go wide receiver also, but mine's Jalen Waddle because Tyreek Hill has been the number 1 guy and Waddle has been the number 2 guy. And so I think Waddle has to establish himself, and I think he will establish himself as the number 1 receiver in Miami this year. So I'm going receiver also. I'm just going to go with Jalen Waddle for a breakout year, and that means we're talking 1,000 yards. We're talking double-digit touchdowns, and just the main target for Tua this season, in Miami. All right, let's go to make or break player for the Dolphins. Who do you have for that one?
On that one, I have the coach,
Okay.
Mike McConnell. I think, that's the big season for him. If they struggle, there are a lot of questions. Does he have control of the team? Where are they at? And I think when I looked at, there are several players you could choose, but I think, this will be the year he'll either have to do well or, he'll be replaced.
Yeah, Mike McDaniel is on a spot right now where there's been drama. There's been, some inconsistencies, all that kind of stuff. So I think that's a great point. I'm going to go with the guy that just came out of retirement, and that's the tight end, Darren Waller. He stepped away from football for a couple of years. He comes back. Well, how's he going to perform? What's it going to look like? And if it doesn't look good, he won't stick around. So I got Darren Waller as my make or break player in Miami this season. All right, let's go to depth chart battle in Miami. Dad, what are you watching there?
Be the backup quarterback with Zach Wilson and Quinn Ewers to see how that comes out. I really liked Ewers in college. How's he going to do? Zach Wilson, has not found a spot anywhere yet. And again, as you always say in Miami, the backup quarterback, may be playing. So it could be a very important spot for someone to win as far as having a chance to establish himself.
Yeah, 100% right. You will see QB2 in Miami at some point this season. Who will it be is the question. I'm going to go to cornerback, Dad. They brought in free agents galore in the defensive backfield. 2 new starting safeties and Melifonwu, and they traded for Minkah Fitzpatrick. But on the cornerback side of things, they brought in 4 free agents at cornerback. They returned Storm Duck, which is an awesome name. I think he'll get one of those spots. They drafted Jason Marshall, but in the 5th round, so I don't expect much from that. They also brought in Kendall Sheffield from the Jets, Mike Hilton from Cincinnati, Jack Jones, and Cornell Armstrong all come in as well. So cornerback spot, 3 spots if you count that nickel spot that have to be filled. Who's going to get them? I think Hilton and Duck are locked in overall, but I think that other spot, Sheffield, Jones, Armstrong, is up for the race right now. So an intriguing battle at cornerback for Miami this preseason. All right, let's go to win totals. And looking at the floor and the ceiling in Miami, the win total is set at 7.5. I like being the one who's down on Miami, Dad, but 7.5, I thought, boy, that would be that Mike McDaniel will get fired at 7.5, I think. So what are your thoughts on the floor and ceiling for Miami?
Yeah, I have them going, again, when I looked at the schedule, I have them going over that, so I think they can cover that. I have at least 8 wins, maybe 9. The floor, I do have a 6, but the ceiling, I have a 10. Again, it's going to depend how well they do in the division games.
So, see, I thought I was going to be in that 6 range too, but I'm not. I've got their floor at 8. I look at their schedule and I go, there is no reason why they shouldn't win at least 8 games. What really surprised me, now you had their ceiling at 10. I've got it at 11. I don't think they're going to get to 11, but it's very possible when you look at their schedule. So if Tua's healthy, if Tyreek Hill is not a drama queen, if we can have some, good football in Miami, they've got a great running back. So, I mean, there's a lot of potential in Miami if it all comes together. So I'm surprisingly I'm much higher on the Dolphins now than I was before looking at their schedule. So I've got them at 8 as their floor, 11 as their ceiling. Both of us have them going over that 7.5. All right, let's head into the next team. It is the New England Patriots, and I think we've already got an idea of who your breakout player just might be in New England. Who is your breakout player for the Patriots?
Yeah, we'll go with that. I just wrote the wrong tackle down for the wrong team.
Oh, okay.
I looked at back at Miami, and I had Patrick Paul. as a tackle there, a guy looking at. So, but no, there's a couple guys in New England that I think will break out. But Will Campbell, can a rookie come in and be an established left tackle? Everything in college pointed to the fact that yes, he could. So, we'll see if he can establish himself there.
Well, I mean, if you're a faithful viewer of the Sports Stove football show, tried to tell you Will Campbell was going to be it at left tackle. He's looked really good so far in camp and preseason. I think he will be an incredibly solid player in New England. My breakout player, though, is a different rookie, and it's Travion Henderson. I've been super high on him coming in. He's already shown the flash in the return game, and you add that into the run game and the pass game as well. I just think it's going to be a huge year for Travion Henderson. So he's my breakout player for New England. Now let's go to make or break player, someone who is kind of on that edge of their career being either over or just as a backup versus being a starter. Who do you have as the make or break player in New England?
It's an offensive lineman, Cole Strange. Seeing if he can win a spot there and establish himself. That's a guy they're looking to see. I think New England, with a new coach and everything's kind of wide open, for people that have been there before. And I think he'll be one that will have to establish himself.
Okay. I went with Stephon Diggs at wide receiver coming off the injury. He's, again, another guy that's been a little too dramatic in recent years. He at one time was considered one of the better receivers in the league, and now it's kind of a question mark. What's he going to be? Is he actually going to help Drake May? Is he actually going to help New England, who's desperately in need of a number one wide receiver? Or is he going to be this hit or miss guy? Too much, trouble, not worth it, I guess, is my thought on this one. So he's my make or break player in New England. All right, let's go to depth chart battles, Dad, in New England. Who you watching for the Patriots?
Well, I think it'll be the running back position. I agree. I think Henderson has a lot of potential. I hope he does well, but you've got the incumbent there with Stevenson. And so I think that'll be, interesting to see at least how that starts the season.
Yeah, I agree. Who's going to get the touches? How many they're going to get? All that good stuff. I think the offensive line is interesting. They bring in Garrett Bradbury at center. They draft Jarrett Wilson, who can play guard or center. You've got Cole Strange, who you brought up as well. There's a lot of question marks right now on the offensive line. But I also think that the edge rusher, specifically opposite of Harold Landry, is one to watch as well. They've got Keon White, who's a second-round pick in 2023. They brought in Kason from Vegas that can fight for that job as well. So I'm intrigued to see who kind of takes control opposite of the other free agent, Harold Landry, there on the defense. Because the defense, there's a high expectation there with Vrabel coming in. The style that we watched him play in Tennessee, they were always in games because their defense was really good. So he's going to have that high expectation. Who's going to win those snaps, I think, is important to watch here for New England. Now, when we talk about the floor and ceiling, I was a little surprised to see this win total at 8.5 for New England. I thought it was going to be lower. Drake May's second year, and last year he looked good, but the team wasn't good. So I'm curious about your thoughts on the Patriots at 8.5 and kind of where you see them floor and ceiling wise.
Yeah, well, I've heard a lot of people talk in the preseason about New England being a lot better, and I know you're real high on the Vrabel hire there. But when I looked at the schedule, I don't see 8.5 at all. Maybe could get to 8 wins, but I don't know. I have their ceiling at 9 and their floor at 6.
We're very similar. So I've got 7 as the floor, 9 as the ceiling. There, it's a little smaller window for me. I think they're improved, but I don't know that they're, a guaranteed 9-win season. I don't see that. It's possible. But a lot of things would have to hit right for New England for that to happen. I see them more at 7 than I do 9, but that's only a 2-game swing. So anything can happen. Division games, guys get hurt in the division. Those kinds of things can turn things around pretty fast. So I think they're improved. I think it was the best hire of the offseason. That doesn't mean that it's an immediate turnaround, though, for New England. They have to rebuild that roster a bit still, in my opinion, at the very least. All right, let's go to the final team, and it is the New York Football Jets. Jets, 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 Jets. Breakout player for the Jets, Dad. Who do you have?
Well, again, when you look at it, it's a rookie, and it may be the guy you had too, but I think Mason Taylor, the tight end, I think that was a great draft pick. And, it's a guy that could and probably should really have a good year.
I love Mason Taylor. I agree. I think it was a great draft pick. I think it's going to be a great fit for what they're doing there as well, but that's not who I picked. I went with Breece Hall, the running back. There was so much talk about him getting traded this offseason, and I'm just sitting here going, why? Why in the world would you trade Breece Hall? And so when I look at the fact that he's still there, and I like Braylon Allen, the backup, but Breece Hall to me has that potential to be elite, top 5 running back in the league. And with the offense that they're going to run this year, with Justin Fields adding to the run game, that's only going to make things easier for Breece Hall. So I think Breece Hall is going to have a huge year this year in New York. So he's my breakout player. Now, make or break player, I'm going with Justin Fields. I think he's going to do well, but if he doesn't, the leash is short at this point for Justin Fields. This is his third team, his third offense. I think this is like his 4th or 5th offensive coordinator. So maybe that's not fair, but at the end of the day, he's getting the chance to start. The team is his. What's he going to do with it? So for me, it's a make or break year for Justin Fields. Who do you have as the make or break player?
Yeah, that was the same guy I had. I'll have to agree with you on that because he either has to make it here. Again, it's only one preseason game, but I thought things looked good there. I watched a lot of the Jets because they were playing the Packers. So I was a little surprised, more positive in a couple things. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Okay, let's go to depth chart battles in New York. Who do you have for that?
Well, I have an old Packer there. The center position, Joe Timmerman and Josh Myers. Myers, signed a real low 1-year contract, but they say he's looked really good in camp. And, he has played a lot. And so him and Timmerman sounds like we'll have a legitimate battle for a starting center position.
Yeah, I mean, if Myers is healthy, I don't see how he doesn't win. Like, he's a very good center. Health has been a little bit of an issue for him, though, as well. I'm going to the defensive side of the ball and specifically the strong safety position. They brought in Andre Cisco at free safety, so that's nailed down. Malachi Moore, 4th-round draft pick, and Tony Adams are the two fighting for this safety spot. I think the rookie wins out on this one, but Adams has more experience, and it will be a battle. So I think on the strong safety position is something to watch for. And then for what it's worth, at cornerback, they have the 3rd-round pick, Azariah Thomas out of Florida State, who I think is very solid. He'll have to fight for playing time, though, behind Brandon Stevens, who came in from Baltimore, opposite of Sauce Gardner. But I think the safety is probably a little bit more of a fun battle to watch at this point in the preseason and things like that as well. All right, let's go to the win total. And again, I was surprised at this one, but I was surprised it was so low, and that is 5.5 for the Jets. When I see the Patriots at 8.5, I go, boy, that seems a little high. When I see the Jets at 5.5, I feel like, not by a lot, but I think that's low. So I don't know. How do you feel about the Jets?
Yeah, I would agree with you about it being low. I will go over 5.5. I think, they should easily be able to get to 6 and probably a lot better than that. I have their ceiling at 8 and their floor at 4. And again, I think the Jets, again, I watched them more than any other team this past weekend. But I was impressed with the coach. Just his whole demeanor on the sideline, it seems like, he has a lot of energy. It seems like the team has bought into that. I didn't know what to expect, from him. And I was just very impressed with the way, he acted and seemed to be with the players and the energy he showed. Now, again, I think, there may be in a tough division to do a lot better there. But, that division games are always tough. And the Jets, if they win, if they sweep somebody, New England or Miami, then that changes everything there. I didn't go in expecting a lot from the Jets and probably still don't, but looking at their schedule, again, I have their ceiling at 8 and floor at 4.
Well, I mean, that's it. I've got their floor at 6 and their ceiling at 8 also. Just splitting games in the division. Let's say the Bills sweep them and they split with Miami and New England. All right. You're already in a decent spot at that point. Now you got to go out and win, some of those. I think they play the Saints, maybe the Browns, those kinds of people. So that's where I sit here and go, they've got a good shot here. Worst case scenario, though, for the Jets or any team that's not great, I think about the Colts in this same situation. Like, you don't want to be at 7 wins. You either want to be at 2 wins so you can get the quarterback you want, or you want to be sniffing the playoffs. And, so it's a really weird spot for the Jets this year. I think they could surprise some people. I think that they could be better than a lot of people think. And it goes back to the coach. Aaron Glenn, first of all, he was a player, and he has the respect of the players, I believe. Second of all, he's been coaching for a while now, down in New Orleans and then in Detroit. And, the one thing that we learn about Dan Campbell, neither of you or I think Dan Campbell's a great play caller, football mind necessarily, but we do think he's a great motivator, and he's a guy that can really rally the troops, so to say. I think Aaron Glenn is able to take from that, using his own personality, and be that hype guy with a little bit more play calling savviness there on the defensive side of the ball as well. So I think Aaron Glenn was a great hire also. And if he can get that defense rolling, because they've got some talented guys on defense, the Jets will be hard to beat. The question will be can they score enough points to win games? The defense, I think, is going to be really good. And by the way, Dad, their special teams coordinator is Chris Banjo. Do you remember Chris Banjo?
I do.
Yeah. So he's there at the special teams coach too, as well. So a few Packer ties there also. Okay, let's talk about the division then. We've got the Bills, the Dolphins, the Patriots, and the Jets. I feel like we have the Bills that we know what we're getting, and then we've got the other 3 teams that there's a lot of questions around. So how do you break down this division? How do you see it ending?
Well, I agree. The Bills should win the division. I'll go Miami, New England, and the Jets, but it could really, like I said, if one team picks up, if the Miami does hit tough times, if Tua is out for a lot and things like that, that would change everything. Will New England, to me, it'll take a year or 2, but if they have a big year, and then we just talked about the Jets, but I think the safe thing would be Miami, New England, and then the Jets.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I want to put the Dolphins lower, and I want to put the Jets higher, and all those kinds of things. But again, looking at schedule, looking at the rosters, everything coming together here, to me, I think that makes the most sense as well. I think only the Bills make the playoffs. I don't think any of these other teams make the playoffs this year. And I think it's kind of a crapshoot. I think there's almost a coin toss in some ways with these teams. The Jets could be better than we think. The Patriots could be better than we think. The Dolphins, it could all blow up in Miami. I mean, it could just be a disaster in Miami, or it could all come together finally in Miami. So I agree with you. I go Bills, Dolphins, Patriots, Jets, but I would not be surprised if the Jets finish second or the Patriots finish second or the Dolphins finish last. None of that will surprise me. The only thing I'll be surprised about is that if the Bills don't win the division, and again, that's saying that, everyone stays healthy. Josh Allen's healthy all season. Then that's what I'm kind of looking at looking at from there as well. All right, so that is our NFL division previews. We've gone through every single one. If you've missed any of them, please go back. Check out the episodes on the Belly Up Sports YouTube channel or on the Sports Stove Football Show podcast, where you can get anywhere you listen to podcasts. That being said, next week we start talking about more important things like real football. We're going to talk maybe some college football. We're going to look at some NFL topics as well, because we have a lot to discuss that we've kind of put on the back burner with doing these division previews and things like that along the way. Dad, some news, NFL news today. Quinshon Judkins will not face charges for his arrest in July. So we assume that his contract will get signed very soon. He'll be in camp. We talked on the Fantasy Football Show this week about Dylan Sampson and you know, all that kind of stuff. But ultimately, it's going to take him a little bit of time, to get adjusted to everything, and he still has to sign his contract. But that legal issue seems to be out of the way, and he might still get suspended, but I don't know that he will. Rashee Rice in Kansas City, his trial, or that's not trial, but his hearing for the NFL is not till the end of September. So he will not be suspended to start the season. He will get to play for, at the very least, the first month of the season before we find anything out about suspensions. So that's interesting and could help the Chiefs get off to a fast start, and barring, something crazy happens, and could really help them set up a long way down the road as well. Is there anything, Dad, that you want to discuss football related?
No, like you said, we'll just get into more general stuff. Next week, the season getting very, very close. Like I said, your show with the fantasy football covers that well, and we're real close to fantasy football. I know I've got to keep putting in time on that to get ready for our leagues. And the biggest thing in the preseason to watch really is injuries from there, and how things are going to shake out from there. But I think NFL will be like always. There'll be surprises. There'll be more parity than what we probably think going in. And, like I said, every week in the NFL is great because you just don't know. And like I said, college football coming up here pretty quick. That's going to be very, very interesting with the new playoff system in place. The conferences are a little more set this year. But now it kind of, you start getting used to, USC and the Big Ten and Texas and the SEC, and till you get a little more used to that. But the competition is going to be unbelievable, I think, in all four of the big conferences. And there's some great games starting out the year anyhow. So,
yeah. For sure. Let's see here on Tuesday, the Belly Up Fantasy Live Football Show. We have our draft. It'll be live on air starting at 8:30 Eastern time. A special time for that. That'll be up on the Belly Up social media pages and Belly Up Fantasy social media pages. So check that out. It's a 12-man league, PPR league, and it'll be a lot of fun. So tune in to that draft. There'll be a lot of good insight you can take if you're into fantasy football at the very least. Follow us on social media at Sports Stove. That's Twitter and Instagram. And again, if you're sitting here going, man, I just wish I had something to snack on. Well, you need Righteous Felon Jerky. So check them out, righteousfelon.com. And if you use the promo code STOVE15, that's STOVE15, you're going to get 15% off your purchase. We sure appreciate you tuning in to tonight's edition of the Sports Stove Football Show. Until next time, we'll see you around the Sports Stove.